And boom, we are live and direct. Welcome to Tokyo Tonight for this May 29th, 2016. I know I say most weeks that I'm going to keep it short this week, and I almost always fail to do it. However, this week, one, I've got a bit of a cold, I'm a bit messed up. Two, I've got a really big day tomorrow. I've got some things to prepare. So for all of those reasons, I really am going to try to keep it short tonight. However, it is good to see you all. I'm sorry my voice is a little bit strange, but this is also why I don't want to mess this up. So yeah, indeed, I've got a few big things on, which I will get to. So yes, anyway, thank you for joining me, and looks like that should have started just on time. And good to see you all. So, where to begin with tonight? Well, I've got some articles picked out. I've got some stuff, some quick announcements. This week I'm going to be at Rochelle's seminar. It is kind of expensive. It's a corporate rate, although you do get a 30% discount if you can persuade your company to allow you to apply with the promotion code HIKO30. So I will be there on this Thursday. That will be awesome. Looking forward to that. Also, 2 weeks away now from the happy hour event, which I will be hosting. I've planned it out as a workshop. It's going to be 3 parts, basically. I think I explained this before, and I'll put this in a post already on Facebook. I'll start sharing it again. I have to do a promotion video for this soon. But on June 17th, I will be in the YouTube space. I'll be hosting an event we'll be aiming for about 42 people. People will be put into 5 groups, and I will first be showing some of the cooler equipment in the YouTube space, and given some basically an hour to, over drinks, get to know the members of their group and plan out a fun 1-minute video that they can upload using the more unusual camera setups that they have. So that'll be kind of fun. Then drinks, mixing, and then another sort of group discussions. First small groups and then big groups. But the idea is to get everybody mixing and talking with each other and talking with people that they wouldn't normally talk with. So yeah, it's going to be really, really fun. Victor had his first event, which he was also running in Nagoya the other day, and by all accounts it went really well. So yeah, really, really big thanks to YouTube for inviting me and a number of other creators to do this. I've been giving them a hard time for a long time, saying that they should be letting their creators run these events, because I don't think they were reaching their full sort of potential before. That is something that they're doing, and hell, they said, okay, do it yourself, and I'm going to do it. It's kind of exciting. The links are in the Flipboard here, actually, but check that out. Anyway, if you're in Tokyo and you can make it, it'd be great to get along, and I'd like to get a good mix of people, of Japanese and foreigners, although, it's going to be in Japanese, so make sure that you can mix. If there is a demand, and I'll be interested to see that today. Oh yes, anime is coming, Lucas. Yeah, if there's enough demand, I'm just thinking I might set up an English version one. I think Tokyo could probably sustain the numbers, and I might do that in the end. There's been some feedback about that, but I want to get the concept off the ground first. And the concept is to show that that YouTube Japan can do its Japanese events, a little bit better, and I want to sort of do that. So yes. And by the way, the idea of forcing people into work groups, that's my idea. I'm being the fascist, and I was actually suggested maybe don't do that, but I've seen what happens, and actually I've been talking with some people who have even described it. It's a bit like a lot of these, particularly Japanese creators, they work by themselves. They're not very sociable people, but they love creating stuff, so they're a little bit kind of quasi Asperger's, autistic. So, you got to kind of just, give them a bit of friendly encouragement. But that will be good. You may have seen the first episode of the new season of Japan Business Time. It went up last Tuesday. It will be going up every Tuesday. There are 11 episodes in this season. The Joy of Japanese Business. And it is, I say so myself, it's a really good new season. So, yes, that is good. Make sure you check out the last one. New one coming up. They're all topics that you guys asked for. And yeah, it's really, really good. So I'm looking forward to seeing Rochelle again this week, as well as putting up another episode of that. We're also going to do the second episode of Tokyo Digital Jam, which is, yes, I've been a bit slow getting around to putting content. I've been busy for the stuff I'm doing tomorrow as well, the same sort of thing. I've been a bit flat out lately. But yes, the Tokyo Digital Crew channel, boom, is going to be managed by myself, it is being managed by myself, Matagaijinka Foghard. A bunch of people who were actually in the comments for this video. That's how we all got together. And yeah, we're going to be doing a second live show, and it's going to be the same thing, talking about creativity. We're going to try to get it into a more regular program and get it going as its own channel. Folkhart's already put up a tutorial, which was really, really helpful for me, and I want to put up tutorials myself. But yes, that is going great. So I'll put out the information about when the next episode of Tokyo Digital Jam, which will not be about Japan, it'll be about being creative in creative processes and so on, but it'll be pretty good. And there's a great group of people. It's right, Shogunai Tai is I think one of the managers, Matagaijinka, Foghard, who else? We got Nobiristo, we got anyway, all the members of the crew. Anyone who wants to be is actually invited, so that's pretty cool. Yes, I think in terms of announcements, I think there are a couple of others. They'll probably come back to me. I've probably got them in the comments here. Mr. Korichev, that means lid, and I don't know where you're getting that from, but good to see you, the Sergeant Bilko. I was just watching a very depressing Swedish movie until this started. So yes, I feel in tune with you. My battery's getting low, but it is charging. It is 29%, but I have the power cord plugged in. Oh, but if I try to show you that, it will disconnect. So what can you do? I am the one-man Google. That is correct. Although that could be someone else. Who knows? Davo Hunter, hey, good to see you back. And also very good to see Temiko L. Thank you for joining. So let's get on. By the way, I had a great exchange. I'm going to catch up with Henna Gaijin, who might have a new series starting soon. I just saw sort of a preview of one of the episodes he just did of my own home country of New Zealand. It's really good. I mean, of course, the dude is a pro. It's good. So keep an eye out in your subscriptions for Henna Gaijin posting again soon. So yes, Nicholas Rapp, what movie? The movie, you know what, I only know the name. It has a Japanese title. I don't know what the Swedish title is. It's incredibly depressing. It looks like your recent movie. I don't even want to say the subject matter. It's super depressing, but I was just compelled to watch it. Hey, Shubha's from Panama. ¿Cómo estás? Well, I've forgotten what's early in the morning. It's muy... Promise I start thinking half in Japanese, but yes. Anyway, it's I know it's early for you in Panama there, so that's all pretty good. And Dan Scussel, always happy to give advice on. You know, I've been terrible at keeping in touch with people lately because I got a lot of shit on, a lot of stuff I can't talk about here. Actually, one of the other things that I've been doing is planning the September 3 party that we're going to do, the summer party. I'm talking to some people We're going to make it something really special this year. So if you only, make it in the next 10 years to like one YouTube party, this might be the one to come to actually. And it's also going to be accompanied by a YouTube Creators Day, which I'm also going to do the same day, which will be hosted at YouTube. But the big after party is going to be after that, and it's going to be awesome. So yes, I have to blow my nose. That's why I'm not well, and that's why I have to go quickly tonight. Maybe that's why I'm talking fast, but then I'm going to do my throat in, and it's going to get worse. Who knows what to do? Anyway, pardon me. So anyway, very quickly, some of the stories that caught my attention this week. 9 a.m. in Panama, it's not so bad. Yeah, I've always wanted, to sort of go around that way. Anyway, it's good to see people from there. I hear it's awesome. Anyway, so yes, the first story we've got here is this is a horrible story. Warning, there's an old legend. I mean, not even legend, it's an old sort of a thing. In the old days when Japan didn't have enough food to feed itself or whatever, and there are these old movies of people like where they couldn't feed the family. They would, the dad would put the grandma on his back and carry her up into the mountains and leave her there, and that would be how they would increase the food, or if they would just, and there's this expression actually, Yamastelba. That's how they get rid of the the horrible old lady or whatever. It's kind of, it's kind of a traditional horrible thing. There is the equivalent in English culture, of course, the black joke about how I used to enjoy the drives in the country with my father as a child, and how surprised he was when I found my way home. Well, no joke. In the mountains of Hokkaido today, there's been a massive search for a 7-year-old kid who's gone missing. The parents reported him missing. Massive search going on. And it turns out the father admitted later on that he actually took the kid up into the mountains and left him there to try to discipline him. A misbehaving 7-year-old. They left him in the mountains, and when they went back to go and get him, which they say was immediately after, he was missing. The father has actually gone on TV and actually said that he was doing it. Shitsuke, that word shitsuke, that means discipline. He was trying to teach his child discipline. He was, punishing him for something. Crazy, horrible. I've taken this from the Nietzschean site. This was on the end of the news tonight, but pretty much, everybody's just reacting. Hirosugiru, that's just like too horrible. Nan sore hidoi na. That's hidoi, that kanji for the 21st one is the same as the hiragana above. Pretty much everyone's just like, holy crap. First thing is hopefully that they find the kid safe and sound. It is Hokkaido. It's still cold up there at the moment. Either way, whatever happens with the kid, the dad's going to jail. and it's just a horrible story. So anyway, sorry to kick it off with that, but that is still brighter than the Swedish movie I just watched. That is how depressing that movie just was. I'm feeling the Scandinavian depressive soul at the moment. Anyway, we got so there is a weird thing. You know how, like in most countries, the government says we're not going to increase taxes, and they increase taxes, and the opposition always promises not to increase taxes to get elected, but then they increase taxes. There's a bit of a role reversal situation happening at the moment. The planned increase of sales tax in Japan from 8% to 10%, which was supposed to happen, I think, by the end of this year. Abe has just announced that he thinks that the economy is in the crapper, and particularly the Kumamoto earthquake and everything else, and we're going to delay it to 2019. You think that this would be the opposition party would be calling for the delay of the increase in the sales tax, and the government would be defending it because the finance ministry would be pressuring them. But Abe's just announced he's delaying it to 2019, and the leader of the opposition says, well, I think that's pretty irresponsible of them, and this is a broken election promise, so they should be punished for it. So it is like watching Brewster's Millions. The whole idea of the Democrats when they got elected was that they were going to go and stop wasteful government spending, discipline the bureaucrats. And that's what happened in the first year. I've told you all about this stuff before. And then at the end of the first year, basically the bureaucracy was just in full rebellion against the government. And basically Yukio Hatoyama got ousted, partly because of that, partly because of the trouble that he was having with the Americans at the time of the Okinawan bases. And Naoto Kan, the finance minister, the head of the Ministry of Finance, which was lobbying for this tax increase, came in and said, I know we promised not to increase taxes, but we're going to increase taxes because that's the responsible thing to do. And ever since, the Democrats have become the party that's doing exactly what the finance ministry wants, which is to increase taxes and government revenue. And the LDP, it's funny, Abe's been the guy who's trying to drop or put off tax increases. But seriously, it's like Brewster's Millions. It's like Okada's campaigning is like he's been paid money to campaign to make the second biggest party in Japan lose. And it's funny because they just merged with the Ishinokai, which was another big opposition party started by Taro Hashimoto, the Osaka mayor. And it actually temporarily surpassed the Democrats in terms of popularity. And even when they merged, the Ishin guys were saying, yeah, we are going to sponsor, we are going to campaign on a platform of no tax increases, we're going to save on spending. And, and the Democrats said, well, we don't want to commit to any promises like that. Why would anyone vote for them? Why would anyone vote for them? This is the problem. It's like, everyone sort of seems to agree that, the LDP sucks, but, the opposition party, it's like they just don't want to win. Butter makes everything better. Well said, Andrea, my boy. Well said indeed. This is the information for registering for my and any other of these creator events which are being run by YouTubers. My one is let me see if I can zoom in on that. My one is this one, 6/17. June 17, I think the one they're all the registrations are closed now. This is a registration site, so it's actually wow, I'm the next one. So yes, I've got to start getting my A into G. If you're in Tokyo or able to come to Tokyo and would like to come to one of my events, and you meet the criteria of having more than 1,000 or less than 10,000 subscribers, or even if you got less, you could apply. I might be able to put a word. Well, I can't guarantee anything. And there is important to keep a mix. And actually, I might already be oversubscribed, but all the more reason, get in there and register. Because I'll be at least managing the groups. So it is all in Japanese, but I'll put a full translation on the Facebook event page, so go and check that stuff out. And I'll be doing more. By the way, even if you don't make it on the first one, it's possible not everyone will get to do it if it's oversubscribed. I will be doing multiple events of these, and if you want to do one in English, let me know as well, because I'll use that information to go to YouTube and say, hey, let me do one event in English, and we can even get international Japanese to that as well, although that will come after. But there will be at least 4 of these happy hours that I'm running and a creator day. So. But anyway, get in for this one because this is the big experiment, and it'll be cool to get in with all of that. So yes, Phoenix 787. I don't think that Japanese politics is anything at all, even remotely like American politics. I really don't. But yes, indeed, Mr. Cordychep, you just for once I can say I completely agree with Mr. Cordychep, Mr. Politics, frowny face. I actually took someone off my regular Twitter reading list today because I'm just getting so sick of seeing American, presidential election race stuff. It's just so nasty and horrible and pointless. Because, by the way, Kahon Groove Guy, good to see you. If you ever want to go and you should go to sleep. But I'm going to be really fast tonight, Kahon Groove Guide. And by the way, if you guys want to learn how to play one of those box drum musical instruments, he is your man, Kahon Groove Guide. Cool Aussie guy channel with tutorials. So yeah, good channel. Anyway, that is my event. Enough self-promotion. Here's some cool. I just thought this is just like 10 random slang phrases, but they're pretty good. So I thought that I endorse these slang phrases. They happen. They exist. And the 10 slang phrases are yabai. Now yabai. Yabai just means like whoa. That's pretty much what yabai is. And yabai, it's like a soft version of fucking. They've got awful, amazing. It means awful or amazing at the same time. You know, this is terrible. This is, I guess the literal translation dangerous, but it literally just means whoa, and it can mean whoa, like bad whoa or good whoa. It basically any word in the English language can be translated as yabai. Yabai is a real, how should I put it? You shouldn't say it in polite company necessarily. It is definitely slang, but yabai is a really flexible word, and you know my 6-year-old now uses it like Smurfs say Smurf. It's a good word, and its use is on the uptick. The youngins are using it now more than ever. It was kind of more of a it was less common when I first got here, but it's picked up. Maji has gone through a little bit of it. It's probably peaked. Maji means serious, for real. It really was. When I first got here, Maji was going through a major boom. It still is pretty there, and you know, it also has a slight, know what I mean, kind of a thing going to it as well. But Maji and Yabai, or Maji Yabai, you know, these all work together, and yes, indeed. Sugoi, awesome. Sugoi is timeless. Sugoi isn't even a slang actually. Sugoi, awesome. You know, awesome. Awesome is awesome, and it works forever. In fact, when I went to Romania, I only learned like 5 or 6 phrases. I learned, you know, hey, my name is. I only speak a little bit of Romanian. Yes, no, and I didn't understand. I just say awesome. I just learned the word for awesome in like every language. Grozav in Romanian, by the way. And yeah, sugoi, you can just honestly, if you're around people, you have no idea what they're saying, but they're saying something to you and writing this, you know, just say that and you're good. It's a good word. Sugoi is, and it's better than yabai. Yabai is a little bit grungy. It's kind of cool. It's kind of edgy, but yes, you definitely want. Sugoi is definitely like total mainstream. You can say that to an obachan, and that'd be okay with that. Kake, we should be careful here. Kake is a really roughed up version of kakoi, which is cool, but kake is it sounds a little bit inakape to me. It sounds to me a little bit rural, or someone trying too hard to be kind of too in the dirt was saying it. But yeah, you can say it's cool, it's ace, it's awesome, but yeah, kake is a little bit. I imagine most of the kids say that. Shanai, to be clear, Shanai is a bit like kake. It's just like a really kind of a loose abbreviation of shoganai, can't be helped. Japanese say shoganai a lot, but you know, it's like I would say fuck it, you know, in the abbreviation, that's fuck it, you know, shanai, you know, it's like shanai is also kind of cool because it also kind of sounds a little bit like shiranai, well, you didn't say shiran, which means yeah, who cares, I don't know. But yeah, it can't be helped. Yeah, fuck it. Yeah, it doesn't matter. That's pretty good. Mendoi, mendokusai can be shortened to mendoi. It's kind of a rough word, but it's okay. You can say it in polite conversation. At least you can say mendokusai. Mendoi, yeah, you can say mendoi. People say that. That's not such a tough word. What else we got? Uzai. That's why I added this to the list. That word uzai. Uzai means annoying. Here's the funny thing. Uzai is probably the strongest offensive term I can think of in Japanese. You can call someone a motherfucker, you can call someone a penis or a vagina, you can use all sorts of swear words. You can say bakayaro, you can say shine, you can say all this sort of stuff. But to say, hey, that guy over there is annoying, in Japanese you have to understand that is a calling to arms of the army of shunning people. To say someone is uzai means basically that person's they say KY, for example. It means that person is a pain in the ass and can't be dealt with. Like I don't want to even look at that person, kind of a thing. And let's all not look at that person. Or it's like, you know, it kind of means if someone says uzai to you or uzai about someone else, I mean, they are putting that knife in deep. Uzai is a phrase I do not and would not recommend using lightly, and if you hear it, you're in a really bad situation. I remember I used to ask too many questions on my first job when I first got to Japan. I was definitely walking that line of Uzai, and one day I got told that, and I knew it was really bad. I've been around Japan, I'd heard it enough to know it was really bad, but I wasn't, the thing was, being told that in a foreign language, even when I understand the language, it's not the same as, when you've had these words traumatized into you from when you're young, so it didn't burn that much. But I went home, and I had a fiancée at the time, and I kind of asked her, I got a question for her. I know Uzai is bad, but what exactly does it mean? And she said, did someone say that to you? And I was like, yeah, my boss told me that. And she was like, really? Your boss said Uzai to you? I was like, yeah, I know it's not good, but what does it mean? And about 2 or 3 days later, she left me. That's how bad Uzai is. It's pretty bad. And I was kind of asking for it, but I was just figuring, what the hell? I mean, I either suffer in silence and screw up, or I just ask lots of questions, and I was super annoying. I mean, that's what you do when you first get here. But yes, you do not want to be Uzai anyway. Someone's saying goodbye. Internationally, Mia's here. Hey, Angela, good to see you. Zach is going. Okay. Kichi, so okay, every morning, Kichigai means retard. Kichigai is actually like, you say as a medical term. I mean, frankly, it comes like English from the term spastic or retard. It actually is a horrible term that's used to people with an actual, a condition. So when people are acting strangely, like some people would say, old people would say that person looks kichigai, and they'll be saying it like not as a put down. They'll be saying it as an extremely politically incorrect way of describing a medical condition. So kichigai, yeah, to the extent that they're saying that person has mental illness, but uzai is like that person is like socially cannot be approached. So in that sense, because it's more broadly applicable, uzai. If you're hearing uzai, you're and in a very Amish type culture, you don't want to hear that. So actually, again, it's a word to be aware of and never to use. I would say out of all of these words, that's the first one on this list I would say really never use. I mean, use it sparingly, only if it's extremely appropriate, and don't use it. Yeah. I mean, if you hear it, you'll know what it means anyway. Temiko, you're asking why haraheta is so bad. Haraheta is nothing wrong. There's 2 T's there on the heta part. You're hungry, there's no problem. There's a bit of slang, but there's nothing wrong. Onakasuita is, of course, the correct way, but haraheta, if you're among friends or family, everyone says haraheta in family. There's no problem with that. Some people say kobaraheta, some people say. I don't think haraheta is that bad. I don't know, unless you're mispronouncing, unless you're actually saying haraheta, then I don't know what that means. That means you've got an uncoordinated stomach, which could be pretty bad. That could be like a serious medical condition. Who knows? Dasai. So, dasai is a softer version of uzai. Someone can be dasai. My wife calls me dasai like every day. I wear shirts like this. She's like, dasai. Dasai means someone who's kind of corny or cheesy or whatever. But uzai is like, seriously, I don't want to be seen with you ever again. Dasai is you're a dork. I can take dork. I've taken dork all my life. I'm one with the dorks. I embrace my dasainess, but yeah, uzai is kind of over the threshold a little bit. Nampa's not really slang. Nampa is a word, and we're going to have an article about it soon. Nampa is pick up, literally hitting on. But the Japanese is kind of funny for a culture which is so shy and introverted. I was surprised by, particularly as you go more rural, that people just pick each other. Guys will pick up women who are standing in front of the ticket gates at train stations. And I learned that a lot of women, like on the weekend, who want to go out, they'll just randomly stand in front of the tickets, the ticket counters of the train station, waiting for guys to come and pick them up. That kind of happens, but and again, there are people who will just try to get away with this everywhere. I see it less now than I used to see it, but maybe that's just my age and where I go, perhaps. But yeah, Nampa is just hitting on people, and it's a national pastime of young charai people. Charai is a bit of a... Charai kind of means a playboy, but kind of not exactly a playboy, like kind of gold chains, medallions, and not exactly that, but kind of the equivalent of that. Charai means kind of like a guy who basically dresses up and looks like and acts like a cheap host. But yeah, someone says that kind of a playboy, that guy's a bit charai, that guy, it means that that guy's basically just looking to get in someone's pants all the time or something like that, you know, not to be taken seriously. These are good terms. These are terms that are commonly used. So boom, there you go. I'm not keeping up with the comments. I'm not going to try tonight because I'm not well, although now that I'm talking I'm feeling good, you know. It always happens. I always go for an hour, but anyway. Okaru, the best pickup line for girls. I'll tell you, the best pickup line for girls is what's your name? That's the best pickup line. It just, you know, if they want to talk with you, they'll talk with you. If they don't want to talk with you, but yeah. One thing gaijins do is they go up to pretty girls and ask for directions. I did that when I first got to Japan when I was 15 with my boys' school trip of 15-year-olds, and we would ask lots of pretty girls for directions, and all that we got out of it was a lot of directions. Being indirect doesn't work. Just ask the name. So yes. Anyway, it's a good list, I thought. So yeah, there's been a few stories. This is picked up by Rocket News, although this was originally on. Here it is. Otaku tattoos are becoming, and they call it actually otatu, are becoming more popular in Japan. Well, more is a relative. You know, it's a relative concept. They've gone from this to like this. To say that these are popular, I mean, yes, they are now becoming visible. For a start, tattoos, the stigma around tattoos is slowly lifting, and there are definitely people, you do see now people with fashion tattoos. They're becoming slightly more common, although there still are issues, you know, you can't go to a lot of places with them. That said, you know, so as natural as the taboo on tattoos is lifting, that people who are serious, the people who are going to do up their entire cars or their houses or you know, in anime stuff, if they're free from the shackles of embarrassment at their tattoo, at their you know, anime manga, you know, representativeness, yeah, sure, a few people are going to put tattoos on. That said, if you just want to get a sense whether this is actually popular or not in Japanese society, I bring to you once again Exhibit A, Itai News, Nichan comments, and you know, talking about how these things exist. Some people actually put tattoos like this on them, and that shit is for life. Seriously, like, yeah. I mean, I know people who have tattoos like this, and you know, power to you. But if you're thinking that this will make you popular in Japan, it might make you popular in like 2 or 3 neighborhoods. But basically, the first comment that was picked up is representative of the overall comments. Kimoi shi kuaishi. Katakana adds emphasis. Kimoi means it's how would I put it? Kimoi, it's like creepy and scary. Acha. Comment number 7 says that shit is for life, dude. Third says, oh my god, what idiots. The next one says these guys are going to get sued for copyright violation, aren't they? The next one says, I'm sure they've just done this with Magic Marker Pen. Torikaishi no tsukan koto. They've just done something that they can't take back. Laugh. Basically, a lot of people just say these people have made just enormous mistakes that they're going to make. Someone comment 31 there. You know, in a totally different way, this is also freaky scary. Someone there has written with a wa, which indicates it's a girl, is saying that's like too creepy, can't stand it. Not to say that these are representative of the Japanese population, but just to be aware that there is a substantial body of Japanese public opinion which will react like this. The comments kind of just basically reacting with horror that people would actually put these on as tattoos. It's just to off-balance the idea that, you know, that maybe Rocket News is giving that these are popular in Japan. They're not exactly popular. More people are getting into them. They are definitely becoming more socially acceptable. And you know, even these types of tattoos. But just be careful. Don't do a whole Hatsune Miku, sleeve tattoo and come and expect everybody to think you're the coolest guy. Some people will. Some people you'll probably get to do some, some number. You'll get to pick up some people with that. But be aware, a lot of people will be silently saying what they're writing there on Nichan as well. That's it. I mean, if you're going to do it, you might as well go all the way with it. I can respect that these people have gone all the way with it, but yeah, man, I don't know about going quite that far. Just yeah. Anyway, and need fog out. Well, a Banman tattoo. Well, yeah, I still think this. I know it's really popular to go full sleeve and all that sort of stuff, and I can respect the art and it looks cool. I think it looks cool myself, but when I see people doing that coming here, I'm just thinking, oh, you're just going to get yourself into so much, strife here. Anyway, interesting story here on the Gaijin Pot blog, written by Sarah who may or may not be the real name, talking about issues with dating Japanese guys. By the way, I've had these same experiences when I was dating Japanese girls. Have to work this weekend. Only meeting a girlfriend on weekends and maybe every second weekend. Well, this is part of the reason I was pretty much hooking up with someone else every weekend for years, because even when you're starting to hook up with someone, they're just not around, and so yeah, and it's not that they're genuinely doing stuff. Japanese have very busy work days, and if they do clubs or they are in NGOs or stuff like that, they go and they have busy weekends as well. But yeah, there's a few generalizations and stuff here, and a few things about this which also make me think, ooh, I would want to date someone like the author of this article. Not that this is really an issue for me, but that said, yeah, this is an interesting experience of a foreign lady dating Japanese people. It's kind of interesting. There is a more interesting one that's coming up. I love fonts, free fonts, 100 best free fonts for designers. There are some good ones in here that I quite like. I love fonts, so I always put links up. So there are your fonts. Hey, Ahmed, good to see you. Marrying usually ends up in a disaster, so better avoid. Thank you for the contribution. Hello, world, indeed. You've delivered your message to the world. So yes, indeed, Matagajin Serahu. Yeah, I mean, so Lucas, you've got tiger, dragon skull, and you know what? I mean, I'm cool with tattoos myself. I think they look cool. I don't have one myself, because frankly, I'm pretty sure if I'd gotten anything tattooed on me between up to like 29, I would have lasered it off by now. I don't think there's anything I would agree with myself, or at least still like enough that I would keep tattooed on me up until now. But yeah, that's the good part about being young, is you can do all that stuff. This is the Dekakin event, which I think happened week before last. This was the first Tokyo Happy Hour event. I'll be doing the next one of these on June 17th. It will be awesome. But look at that, they look very happy. And that is the idea. Dekakin did a good job. He's called Dekakin because, well, take a guess. He's a big dude, and he looks like Hikakin. And oh my god, Phoenix, you're at that one. Holy shit, I just realized. I just zoomed in and I saw there's Phoenix. How was it? Dude, is he already left? I think he's already left. Well, anyway, took all his hair with him as well. So there you go. I got to ask him how it was. But that was the first one. Why didn't he come to my one? Jeez. Okay, well, each to their own. Each to their own. But that was cool. There was a survey done by Dave Powell on Twitter, and you know what? I can't get this to display. Can I get this to display? I want to see this on Twitter. He did a poll of creamy peanut butter versus a crunchy peanut butter, because myself and Amanda Sekine, Yamam Sesame, were getting into a bit of a disagreement. So he put up a poll, and the results were pretty much outrageous. I pointed out that creamy butter users are like Californian marijuana users, in the sense that we're too cool to show up and vote to endorse what we do. That's why California didn't get it legalized there. It's the same with the creamy peanut butter. We lost this poll, 60% to 40%, but of course, it doesn't make any logical sense. How could anyone like creamy butter, peanut butter, better than, I know I'm getting a bit butter fixated again, but this is peanut butter, it's totally different. I'd like to do a survey right now, creamy or crunchy, and I'm just warning you at the moment that anyone who says crunchy is like going to be dead to me after this. But no, it's okay. You can be honest, be open. But yes, I'm definitely. But we got some crunchy people there. I don't know. I don't like. Well, maybe partly because I had braces. I had braces for a time, so for me, chunky. It's hard to spread. It just gets stuck. When you have braces, you're pulling it out for like weeks afterwards. I just want to maximize the efficiency of the peanut butter on the bread, right? Why would you mess up the evenness of the spread, or even get involved in all of the the stuck between teeth or all of those sort of issues? It doesn't make any sense to me. The fact that you kind of get hooked on the bread, and how you kind of rip the bread because you've got into a crunchy bit kind of holds up the knife. It doesn't. It doesn't make sense. Creamy is the only thing that makes sense. Okay, you're asking how illegal is pot weed in Japan? It is as illegal as anything could be. It is. You could have a freight container of 2 tons of the hardest cocaine ever made from South America, and it would be the same as if you were caught with a joint, pretty much. In terms of the way society generally and the police deal with it, they don't distinguish between categories of drugs. It is ironic because Japan has hemp as an indigenous, and in fact, Shinto religion uses hemp in a lot of ceremonies. It's sacred. The stuff in Hokkaido grows wild by the road. In fact, even after World War II, pot was illegal. Well, it was legal in Japan. It was the Americans who made it illegal. And the emperor himself visited all of the pot plantations all over Japan and said, "Don't worry, the Americans, I know they did this crazy regulation, but we're going to protect you because it's important for Shinto and it's an important part of Japanese culture." But they actually, one by one, they closed down all the hemp farms. There are still legal hemp farms in Niigata. I know a lot about this, don't I? I've drunk hemp beer made in Japan, so it is all around. And I've heard of people who go up on tours, and here's the thing: I would not use it in Japan because the consequences are way too heavy. And I know people who've been deported for being caught with pot. I know people, someone who was married to a Japanese girl at my work in New Zealand, who was the Kiwi husband was deported from Japan for getting involved with that stuff. So it's not treated as a small thing. If you get caught with it, or get in trouble, so don't go near it. But it's a bit contradiction. It's a lot like the sex thing and the censorship thing, and all of that you see. In traditional Japan, it was totally okay, but in modern Japan with imported morality and rules, it's actually even worse than it is back in most Western countries. So it is extremely illegal, is what you should basically think of it, and don't. For me, I don't see the benefit, cost, risk. The risk is so high and so weighted against you, especially as a foreigner here. I'll tell you, kids, don't do it. I mean, seriously. And I'll tell you a quick story. I know a guy. I know someone who used to work at a law firm, who would go out and help advise people detained at night of their first rights before they got put into immigration detention in Ibaraki, which is like one of the most horrible. It's probably the worst way you could ever go into jail in Japan. And she met a surfer guy once who got pulled up, and with one joint in his pocket, got pulled up at the airport at customs, and thought the whole thing was a joke, and was being told he was going to be put into. She had to brief him. He was going to jail for being processed, and he would go basically into a black hole for 3 days, where no one could contact him, and then she would come back again after they'd finished the processing of him. She came back a few days later, and the guy was just completely. It's like he'd been in the Hanoi Hilton for the last week. Japanese jails are rough. You don't get to contact anybody. To the whole world, this person disappeared. He might have as well have been taken to Guantanamo Bay. No one knew where he was, and it was, and this guy was basically put through hell of detention for a few weeks, and eventually processed and deported over a joint. That's how bad it is. So kids, don't do drugs. And if you do, don't do them in Japan. And if you do, seriously, don't ever get caught, because it's just not worth it. So just don't. But that said, there are certainly massive contradictions behind it. So it's an interesting subject. How are we doing on the peanut butter thing? Not that it's weird that these things are linked, aren't they? But I don't know. For me, I completely don't understand how Twitter came out in favor of Crunchy. It doesn't make sense to me. So anyway, by McNeil, who's got his Kickstarter for the translation of his book, which he was good enough to read on this show the other day. My favorite chapter, Word is Bond. Loco in Yokohama, Hi, My Name is Loco and I'm a Racist, was the original book, which is what he read. He's going to get it translated to Japanese. It's going to be awesome. He's also got a new book coming out, which he's going to do after the translation is done, where I'm going to be one of the people that's interviewed, and it's awesome. And if you haven't read his original books, this is the best way to get it. He does an interview there with Charlotte talking about racism in Japan. From more or less a giving assurance perspective, although he is someone who complains about that a lot. But yes. And Stephanie, yeah, I understand, but and I come from New Zealand, and I agree with you, Stephanie. I think drunk people are like the worst people, and they're violent, antisocial, they can't control it. I mean, but it is what it is. Internationally, me. Good night. Have a good night. Aichi cops, they arrest a Tokyo man traveling around Japan to Nampa, to Hiromo. I told you the slang earlier. I put this one up because I love the quote, the confession that he gave to the police. Japanese police quotes. You can tell basically. In Japan, police don't investigate crimes. They detain people that they think did crimes, and they basically hold them until they confess. And they can hold them on a single charge for up to something like a week, basically. You know, any confession given after like 24 or 36 hours in most Western countries is deemed coerced and inadmissible. In Japan, they just hold them for a week, and if they don't confess, they just charge them with something else and then hold them for another week. And they prepare these, prepared confessions of the people they arrested. Hey, we think you did it. Sign this, and we'll let you out. And so you can tell the cops make up the stories of these very clear confessions. And once they sign the confessions, the cops half the time will turn these confessions over to the media before the guy's even put on trial, just to make it clear that he can't get out of it now, and they can call the case closed and not have to work on it. And so a person who was detained on Nagoya campus trying to hit on girls, quotedly his confession, which he signed, said he was definitely aiming to hit on women. Love it. I love it. I mean, I was like, I was definitely there hitting on women. Yes, officer. Take me away. So yes, again, it's just obnoxious people traveling around. But these Japanese police reports, they are just wonderful. They are so great. Interesting story here about a half Japanese person trying to rediscover a Japanese identity by coming and working in illegal hostess bars in Japan. Not sure that's the best way to get back in touch with your Japanese identity, but a lot of people do it. It's quite good money by all accounts. When she says illegal as well, I'm not totally clear about that. I think she means that she's working there without being on a proper visa. That's it. I've heard some really interesting stories from people in the same situation, and she is creating a graphic memoir, a graphic novel version of her autobiography of it, the sexism of the service industry and the Tokyo subway and so on. And well, again, maybe I'm too desensitized to this stuff. It's interesting hearing her talking about it, and I definitely want to see this when it comes up, because I think it would be really interesting to read. So that is interesting, and she's maybe someone to watch, if I can just remember her name again. Marina Naomi. I guess that's the writer name that she's going by. And yeah, it'll be interesting when it comes out. See it in a graphic novel format as well. What else we got? This is the seminar on Thursday that I'm attending, the Working Effectively with Japanese. It'll be on Thursday, hosted by Rochelle Kopp. If you can go, like I say, it's expensive, but corporate rate. So if you can convince your boss to let you go because you're going to get a Hiko 30% discount, sign up. See you there. It'll be good to see you. It'll be awesome. Also, I mentioned, actually, Internationally Me was also at this party, the Tokyo Chiba 4th anniversary party. We did that the other week, and that was good fun and awesome. Tokyo Chiba was really doing kick-ass. They're a good site to subscribe to. They have lots of awesome, good information just on stuff that's going on around Tokyo, and, with an eye to a budget, it's really, really good. Kei Midori, yes, I do. That's why I am going fast, so I can go to sleep early tonight, because I've got a big day tomorrow, and I am drinking medicine stuff. So yes, actually I'm going to blow my nose. Stephanie Rollinson, yes, well, what is Nampa in Japan would definitely be taken as harassment in New Zealand. Not only harassment, you get arrested probably. So it may be very uncomfortable being around Japanese guys doing it when I first got here, but it is pretty normal. Although that guy got arrested, so yes, I guess it is harassment. Yes, this is the first episode of the new series of The Joy of Japanese Business. It went up this week. We'll go up every Tuesday. Reasons to work at a Japanese company. This was a good episode. Artwork by Nikita Archer. She did a great job. It looks really, really good. Check that out. Really, really good article. I don't say this very often. I read a good article in English on on Hiroshima and the apology debate. Yes, I will thank you, Kei Midori. Yoku nemasu. Hai. よくなってね、なってね、いや、すぐ良くなる、そんな重くないし。So anyway, yes, the thing is, the debate, whenever Hiroshima comes out the media, and it's happening again because Obama went there and said, we don't want to apologize, we had to do it, you don't understand, we saved lives by dropping the atomic bomb. Well, if you want to get in that debate, well, is it, can you ever justify murdering, what is it, the latest count is like 200,000 civilians, can you justify it by the lives that are saved as a result of that? Is it ever militarily justifiable or morally justifiable? I would say, well, maybe it's true. I'm not exactly sure if it's true, but let's say it is true. I mean, does that mean that it's a legitimate tactic of war? It's okay for us to go and if you kill enough civilians and break the will of the enemy to fight, does that end up justifying it? If you actually go so overboard, killing so many civilians and committing such an intense war crime that the other side actually breaks down, loses its will, and you actually end up saving lives, does that mean that means you've always got a choice with every war? Do you actually target and try to win the military to military battle fair and square, or do you try to save the lives of your soldiers by just massacring as many civilians as possible and hoping that the massacre will be so overwhelming that the other side will just give up? That's my opinion on the apology debate. But that said, it's immaterial because frankly no one in Japan really talks about demanding an apology from the Americans, and this article here goes around a lot of people from Hiroshima. The thing about Hiroshima is that they were really opposed to the central government of Japan, and they blamed Japan equally or more than America for all of this. And this is the thing, where Westerners come in and say, well, we were bad, but the Japanese were worse. Look at what they did in China. Look at what they did in those other places. And that's what a lot of Westerners who want to kind of punish Japan over this, they want to recognize it, even save Japanese lives. Or two, well, look, Japan did all this bad stuff that was even worse than Hiroshima, so they shouldn't be feeling sorry for themselves. They should be feeling sorry for the Chinese. All valid points. You never hear these points get raised in Japan, though. You never hear people demanding the apology. You never have the, oh, but we were terrible, and these other things come up. You do hear it maybe on the very far left, but very fringe. But what you do hear is that the war itself was terrible, and that it was the result of a right-wing Tokyo-based central government out of control that was taking advantage of regions like Hiroshima and Nagasaki, like the regions basically, suppressing them as much as anyone else. And that it was a tragedy as a result of the war itself, the entire war, which was led by people the remnants of which are now the current government of Japan, was a terrible mistake that led to this terrible suffering of Japanese people. And they don't blame the Americans. It's a domestic. It's a left versus right. It's the left wing blaming the right wing in Japan for this. So going and asking the Americans to apologize, they don't externalize it like that. You have to understand. They're not thinking about China, maybe they should. They're not thinking about America, even though Americans assume that they do. This in Japan, the Hiroshima bombing is taken purely domestically as Japan must never let itself get into the situation again of having an out-of-control crazy government that's going to go off and allow this sort of situation to occur, or bring this upon Japan again. And that's what the left says, that this was brought upon Japan by the government. And the act itself was evil, but at the same time they don't really focus on who did it. They focus on the fact that it was certain forces in Japan that brought it on, and the right wing doesn't want to talk about it because they don't want to be accused of bringing it on, or being that this was the outcome of the war. And so again, and they don't want to blame the Americans because the Americans are the ones who propped them up after the war. And the whole thing about if you're right wing in Japan, you're supposed to be pro-American, so you don't want to make it awkward for Americans or military commitment to defending Japan by criticizing them or bringing up the H-bomb thing. So Abe didn't want an apology, hell no. And this is why the LDPs never asked them to go over there. The mayors of Hiroshima and Nagasaki ask US presidents to go and visit, and they want that, but they want that partly because it sends a message to the central government that this was a terrible thing, which the central government doesn't want to remind people of. So you have to understand the politics of this is super complicated in Japan, and yes, they're very internal. They don't give a shit about America. They don't give a shit about Asia. Maybe they should. There's valid arguments around that. But the point is, we debate Hiroshima making assumptions about what the debate is in Japan that are usually completely incorrect. So Mariko Oi of the BBC went around and actually interviewed some Japanese people and got basically a bunch of interviews and asked people about the idea, including directly of victims, and gets views that reflect pretty much portrays what I see in the Japanese media of the debate around the A bombings. By the way, when the media covers this very sympathetically to the victims and almost silently, in isolation from everything else. But not, again, a lot of Americans get very defensive around when we talk about the A bombs. We had to do it, man. But they don't focus on these terrible people who did this. They focus on it like a disaster, and the undertones are not that the Americans are terrible, although that's there for some. The undertone is that the war was a disaster for Japan, and being in wars, this is what war is, and this is what the government's trying to take Japan back to now, and it's what we got into. We shouldn't get into again. So yeah. So yes, Okara was asking, how bad is the single mother thing in Japan? Hell Talk is full of them. I don't know what Hell Talk is, what you're talking about there. The single mother thing, you mean how tough it is to be a single mother? It's pretty tough to be a single mother. You don't get a lot of support. and then divorce rates are increasing, although they're still relatively low, but they're low in part because it's so tough to be a single mum in Japan. It's super tough, having to work and have kids in school, and schools are really demanding on parents as well, and they assume often two parents, although that's sort of changing. It's tough, although I'm not a single mum myself, but I can definitely see how that is tough, although it's an increasingly common situation, particularly in Tokyo. Anyway, I said I'd just take half an hour and I'm nearly done. Army community channel. I was first. I got to be in a live video with Ami. I've been in like 3 live videos maybe with Ami before this, but and it's a rare thing. Ami is a very private person. She doesn't. I feel very privileged that I was able to connect with her at a very early stage, and that we got to make some videos together. But that said, and it's actually funny because on the wall, I just remembered, on the wall in the Tokyo YouTube studio, I'm right beside, myself and Ami Yamato are right beside Community Channel on the wall. And there she is. And I always felt really cool that not only am I there with Ami in the same like photo on the wall, but we're beside Community Channel, who's just like the most awesome Australian channel on YouTube. But check it out, they made a video together, which is awesome. Yeah, Nat was visiting London and it looks like they met up and they shot a video. Really, really cool. Check it out, and really, really great to see. There's been a bit of a discussion about this. Why does pop culture see Asian women as sexy but not Asian men? And there's this kind of stupid video talking about, hey, Asian men are sexy too. Races, nationalities are not sexy. I get it. I do get it. The less we know about something, the more we gather it all together and we generalize about it. I don't know many Estonians. I have an image of Estonians being blonde-haired, blue-eyed, kind of quasi-Scandinavian, Russian, Germanic, sort of, good-looking people, and I would guess probably Estonians are sexy. But I don't know any Estonians. I'm sure if I went to Estonia and I got to know some Estonians, I would get to meet some sexy Estonians and some not sexy Estonians. And probably within about a week, the idea of saying that Estonians are sexy or not sexy would be completely stupid after about a week of being there. But there again, if you don't ever meet Estonians, I might make a generalization about Estonians being sexy or not sexy. So it is confusing to me how people can be in a country where you're exposed on a daily basis to Asian people. And well, again, I guess it comes down to, it is true that particularly in America and a lot of Anglo-Saxon countries, you can live in a country where there are Asian people but not have any Asian friends or have any regular interaction with Asians other than in a shop or something like that. So if you don't have maybe if you're just not around Asian people and you develop this kind of fetishized version from watching too much porn of the women, and this idea from watching movies about the guys, or just seeing guys who don't look very strong or whatever, and just thinking, guys who are shorter than you and thinking, well, they don't look very tough or whatever. And then you start to just go to whatever the racial stereotypes are. And there are stupid racial stereotypes for everything, of course. Black guys, white guys, Jewish guys, Latinos, Asians, whatever. But again, the idea that you could even have a serious discussion about this after you have been exposed in any meaningful way to people from this background. The idea that you could come to Japan and still be talking after a year about whether Japanese guys are sexy or good boyfriends or not, that's so stupid. It's like going to Australia and saying whether all Australians are good boyfriends or not. And people do. I know people are people and people are stupid, but even this, to me, it is as racist to say that New Zealand white men are sexy, are not sexy, as it is to say that they are, which I guess people would say neither of those are. But the idea of saying with Asian people that they're not sexy, we're going to combat that in this video by showing you that actually Asian men are sexy. No, there are sexy Asian guys and there are non-sexy Asian guys, and if you want to break that down, Asia is like 10 times bigger than Europe, right? So again, you go to different parts of Asia and you get used to, you come to Japan, the fashions are different, the sense of what sexy is different, the sense of what is attractive is different. Once you come here and you get in sync with what everyone's thinking, you see the media, you watch music videos and so on. Yeah, over time your tastes and people start to change and what you consider to be attractive. But the idea that you can just put this paintbrush across, this is literally, are Americans sexy? Or are Americans fat? Or are Americans loud? Or are Americans, and people say it all the time, Americans are fat. People say that. It gets really annoying for Americans, I guess, being told that all the time. Because of course you go there, of course there are skinny people in America too. A couple. Right? But the fact that even if you're saying that in a good or bad context, it's just a stupid thing to be debating. But there again, a lot of people did it, and I just did it. What can you do? But people talk about it because we are stupid. That's what we do. But you have to stop and just have a moment of clarity about what a stupid debate it is, even if you're trying to flip it around and make it positive. It's like saying women. Women are not stupid. Women are the smartest people ever. This is something feminists kind of do a lot. For example, they try to counterbalance the idea that men patronizing women by saying actually women are smarter than men, and you can find a bunch of women who are way smarter than most people, men or women, and say, look. But to say one way or the other, is as stupid as the other. But people do it because we're idiots. Convenience stores in Japan. I recently discovered this thing. Actually, Nikita Pakchan, she tweeted about this, that you can actually print photos at the local convenience store, and indeed you could even print like postcards. And I went and did this recently, and it works, and it's really convenient because it's a convenience store. That's what it sells, convenience. And it's pretty cool. This is 7-Eleven, but I did it at Family Mart. They all use slightly different smartphone applications and so on to connect, but it's super cool. And especially if you want to send a postcard back home of something that you shot, it's like 80 yen, in the machine. There are instructions on this guide in English, and they're worth finding because it's pretty cool. Man, have I really gone for 54 minutes? I thought I'd be done by now. This is crazy. If you want to come to Japan, you want a job, I know a lot of people go for the English teaching thing. Consider learning enough Japanese, but becoming a trained child caregiver. I know people who do child care tend to be people who want to do child care because it's not really a job that people do just for money, because it's pretty hard work and stressful, looking after a lot of screaming kids. But if you can do it at the moment in Tokyo, the number of people looking for jobs versus companies looking for people to hire as child caregivers, as day caregivers, 66 to 1 at the moment. So much so that they talk about in this article how the competition has gone crazy and how people are offering free rent, extra vacations, travel, all these sort of incentives, super bonuses, like 4 times a year bonuses, to try to attract the certified caregivers, because they're just so rare at the moment. So if you want to come and get a job in Japan and you have any sort of qualification in this area, and I guess the requisite Japanese ability, but maybe you don't even need that, because a lot of daycares love to have an English or a foreign teacher in them. They're going to be lining up for you. Massive, the demand for daycare is just going crazy. Ahmed's saying something here. Ahmed is Arab, and I can tell you that Arabs are less civilized on average than Westerners. Well, but there again, well, Ahmed, I'm going to call you out on your racism against yourself, and I put down Australians and New Zealanders all the time myself, right? So, I appreciate what you're doing. I appreciate that different countries have different levels of, depending on what you define as civilized, but certainly standards of living, standards of education, and so on. Some countries with average lower education, sure. But there again, if I meet someone just because they're an Arab, the Arabs grow up in Western countries, and they grow up in Japan, they grow up in America and New Zealand. I'm not going to assume an Arab that I met in New Zealand is going to be less civilized because they're Arab, they're going to be like me. It's where they're from. You'd say maybe, I know, I'm assuming you're meeting people from Arab countries. And it's a little bit emotive to say civilized, but I kind of get what you're getting at. But at the same time, it still is. And the fact is, like, for example, I worked at my last job with a Moroccan guy. He was not a typical Moroccan guy. His parents were Spanish and Moroccan diplomats, and they were super rich, and grew up in some international boarding school. You're talking average. Sure, but the point is that averages don't apply when you're dealing with someone one-on-one. This guy was way more civilized than me. Granted, he was nothing like a typical Moroccan person, but yeah. That's why I don't like getting into the but I know what you're saying, and people can say that sort of thing. And that is funny, Mr. Kodichip. The funniest Arab you know is half Korean, half Vietnamese. That is a hell of an Arab. So anyway. Daycare, there are jobs and good money in it if you want to come to Japan. Okinawa is on shutdown after this murder of this 20-year-old girl by a American citizen base worker of a base in Okinawa. The Japanese government asked for countermeasures to it to prevent Marines murdering people, or specifically here, people who work just on US bases. And so they've basically locked down all the bases with a midnight curfew and no alcohol drinking off base. It is kind of a collective punishment, and it is a punishment that assumes that all Americans in there are potential are one drink off base away from being a child molester or a murderer. That's happened in the past, and I can understand how it must be very frustrating and unfair for the people, for the US forces there, but at the same time, it's a sensitive time and a sensitive place, and yes, this is the measure that the Americans are taking to sort of try to pacify the anger that's happening against the bases. That said, the people who are really angry against the bases are going to be angry at the bases even if this wasn't happening, but of course this is going to aggravate it. And yeah, I understand that's what you meant, actually. But there again, Arabs I would still, and you're talking average as well. I know for a fact. Well, okay, I'll tell you what. I have ancestors who lived in Egypt. They weren't Arab, but they lived in Egypt. And there were times. This is historical, pre-war times. But there's in any society there are educated people and uneducated people. Hell, there are parts of Australia I don't consider, large parts of Australia I don't consider to be civilized. In New Zealand, there's real serious poverty and lack of education. In large parts of New Zealand as well. Even every country has this. America has this. Even Japan. Japan is better than most. In fact, I think the reason I'm in Japan is that really Japan is pretty civilized throughout. Actually, much more so than where I come from. But I know what you're saying. But, the point is, when you get too locked into thinking like that, it stops you judging on an individual basis, which is what you have to remember to try to do. And that is it. That is all the topics for this week. I'm not going to do music. I've talked too much. My throat's gone. And that's an hour. That's exactly an hour. I'm going to say goodnight now. Thank you for joining. It's been pretty cool. And indeed, I am a little bit careful. While it is true, it's the internet. It's also, I'm trying to make a point as well. I find it as irritating, and the whole point I'm trying to make about that thing before is that I found it as irritating that they wanted to counterbalance the idea that Asian men aren't sexy by saying, hey, Asian men are sexy. Saying Asian men are as capable as anyone else of being sexy, I'm all for that, right? Give them a chance. Totally up for that. But the idea that, a little bit too stupid was the approach to try to counterbalance that. Yes, indeed. Anyway, that is the end of the show for this week. I'll be back next week. Wednesday night, Tokyo Digital Jam or Tokyo Digital Crew. It'll be on the Tokyo Digital channel, although I'll be tweeting out information about that. Come and join. 2.5 Oyajis next week is going to be really good. I've got an old friend who's coming on who helps consult people. He does consulting for people wanting to set up businesses in Japan and do startups. How to set up a company in Japan. He's an expert who does that. Plus he's got a co-working space with high-speed internet and a working space for people who want to come on business trips in Japan. So he's a really interesting guy, and he's got a lot of stories which I'm going to try to coax out of him. But he's going to be on 2.5 Oyajis next Saturday, which we'll be back. I'll be back next Sunday with this show. Japan Business Time will be back on Tuesday, and I'll be back with YouTube events coming up, party in September, all rocking. So thank you for hanging out once again. Yes, indeed, the large hobbit population. I'll say the hobbits are uncivilized. You can totally take that and put that in the bank. They are just bastards. Those little hobbits. They take over everything. So yes, great to see you, Jinx, Triple J. Thank you for joining me. As usual, I said I'd just do it in 30 minutes and it took an hour, but what can you do? And Dawn, yes indeed, looking forward to seeing you in the comments on that, and have a good night everybody. Boom, peace. Sure. It's hot, it's like, seriously, look at oh shit, look at this. If you can see this in focus, it is 29.9 degrees in here. The computer warms up this room like crazy. I'm kind of sweaty. It's 29.9. I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit, but that is too hot to be in a room. It should be like 25. Good night. Boom. No, I've got to stop this now. Stop.